I'm just going to charge them $1 million. Yeah, $1 million. I mean, why not? Hi, I'm Sam Nordberg, and in this week's mini training, we're talking all about price. You see, this is something that comes up quite a lot when people ask me how much should they charge for something and they just don't know where to start. So what I'm going to do is take you through some really easy ways to work out how much you should be charging for something. Now, this is very easy if you sell a tangible product. So if you're producing stuff, if you're producing things by hand, this might be, let's say you make baked goods. Maybe you're a cake maker. Well, then it's really easy because what we do is we take the cost that it costs you to make the product. That's everything. That's your time, that's your ingredients, that's any transport or shipping costs, that's everything it costs you to physically get that product ready to sell. That's your cost price. You multiply that price by 2 and that gives you a wholesale price. So if anyone is buying from you wholesale, that's what they pay. And you multiply that by 2 again and then you get retail price. So if you're selling it in a shop front, you're going to sell for retail price. So again, that was you're going to work out your expenses, what it costs you to make something, that's cost price. Times 2 becomes wholesale price, times 2 again becomes retail. As an example, if it cost you $10 to make, as taking into account all of the materials and the time and everything it costs you to make that thing is $10. Multiplying that by 2, your wholesale price, if people were buying in bulk from you, would be $20. And your retail price, if you were selling it from your shop front or if other people were selling it from theirs, would be $40. So that's really easy, right? But what if you're not selling product? This is where the problem comes in when a lot of people are writing courses, which is that they're not selling product as such. And what they're selling is sometimes hard to make tangible, and sometimes it's not quite as easy to price. Well, there are still some key questions you can ask yourself. So the first one needs to be cost. What does it cost me to produce this thing? Now, this varies greatly from course to course. So, of course, if you have video editing costs, if you've got hosting costs, if you've got webinar costs, if you've got platform costs, if you've got advertising costs, if you've got all of those things, then they need to be accounted for. Funnily enough, your business needs to run at a profit. Yeah, it'd be nice. So you need to take into account all of those costs into building your price. The other thing you need to take into account is how many people do you plan to sell to? So of course you can bring down the price of what you're selling if your intention is to have 100 people in your class because your costs are spread over 100 people. However, if you're planning to run with 10 people, of course your cost for the course is going to be more expensive because your expenses are not spread over as many people. When we run face-to-face workshops, we have a minimum level cap, which is this is the minimum number of seats I need to sell before I run it because anything under that isn't profitable. I've built my ticket price based on a certain number of people attending, and I need those people, otherwise it's not profitable to run. I also then, for face-to-face workshops, cap a maximum ticket price, maximum number of people, because I think it's only fair if they've paid good money to come and see me that I dedicate time to them, and I can't do that necessarily if there are 6,000 people in a room. I can do it if I cap my numbers. So you've considered your costs. You considered how many people are going to be there. You need to consider how much interaction they're going to have with you. If your course is highly intensive and has a lot of one-on-one, then of course it's going to be more expensive than if it's completely self-paced online and they never talk to you ever. Because again, you're building into your cost-based time with you, and time with you is expensive, hopefully. Lastly, it's worth having a bit of a look around and see what everyone else is doing. Now notice I left this one till last. I hate when people go out and decide to price their course based on whatever someone else is charging. Yeah, they're going to sell their course for this because this is what Maria Forleo charges. I'm like, well, that's lovely. But have you considered what your costs are and what her costs are? Have you considered what's going into your course and what goes into hers? I'm not saying yours should be cheaper. Hell, sometimes it could be more expensive. But there's no point just charging what someone else charges if that's not going to cover your costs and not going to make a profit. You need to really carefully about the basics of what you're charging before you go looking elsewhere. You can then, of course, have a look elsewhere and see if what you're doing is going to be competitive in your marketplace. But again, that's the last option because you can find other ways to be competitive rather than price. I think the moral of the story here is don't just price willy-nilly and make sure you're working out your costings before you go ahead. Please don't just pluck a number out of the sky. Pisses me off, Owen. Of course, you have to feel comfortable charging what you charge, but there is no point charging less than you are worth if you're not covering your profit margins because you may as well be running a charity if you're just going to give money away. It doesn't really work like that. So I'd love to hear from you below. How do you work out your costings? Is it similar? It really should be, and really think about what you're doing first And as always, I'll see you next week.